Hey, get that iron on. I want my white pants pressed. I want to look my best when I get to Hollywood.
How we gonna get in pictures? We know nothing about movies.
There's a couple of thousand people in pictures now know nothing about it. 3 more won't make any difference.
The Three Stooges came to Columbia Pictures just as it was beginning to have a comedy shorts department.
Let's try this one. I don't see any watchmen around.
So they kind of grew up together.
Gentlemen, welcome to Hollywood. I've been expecting you. Welcome, welcome.
And a lot of the Stooges' brand of humor became the house style.
Cut, cut, cut. You ain't shooting the picture right.
Why, what's the matter with it?
There's no action.
And I think that reflected largely the taste of Jules White, the producer in charge. He ran the shorts department in tandem with a man named Hugh McCullum. And there were 2 units that were always working.
Give the doctor a little anesthesia.
A winner every time, no blanks.
A stooge in burlesque or vaudeville was a sidekick or a patsy or a dummy for the star comedian. So when Ted Healy, a star of vaudeville and even Broadway, had henchmen or assistants, he ultimately referred to them as his stooges. And the act for a while was called Ted Healy and His Stooges. When they decided to break with Healy and went out on their own, they became the Three Stooges.
We'll show these Hollywood guys how to make pictures.
Certainly.
It was Moe who made a deal for them with Harry Cohn, who oversaw Columbia with an iron fist till his dying day. I think they were in the right place at the right time, because Columbia was trying to establish itself as a purveyor of comedy 2-reel shorts, 2 reels being approximately 20 minutes long. Hal Roach was getting out of that business. Theater owners weren't willing to pay more to rent the shorts, and they were costing more to make. So he got out of the shorts business around the same time that Jules White was setting up Columbia and got the benefit of that.
Sold to the man with the spittoon haircut.
Oh, getting personal, eh?
When they worked with Healy, there was really no individuality to Moe or Larry or Curly. It was only when they started making their own films at Columbia that the personalities of the individuals came through.
What are you doing? You told me to hold it. Well, you can let go now.
They arrived at Columbia just as the studio was completing a run of shorts using rhyming dialogue. That early film of theirs, Woman Haters, was directed by Archie Gottler, who was also a songwriter. They were shoehorned into that formula for just one film.
We'll sign an agreement that we 3 will stick together for life and never even look at a girl and never take a wife.
And then Moe claimed authorship of Punch Drunks, which started to explore them as individual characters.
Why, you're the new champ. I knew we'd do it. We put it over. Oh, this game's good.
Some of their trademarks came about naturally. Ted Healy had slapped them around. They were used to that. Larry had briefly been a boxer.
Oh, you mean like this?
No, like this. Oh. Quiet, porcupine.
Columbia, which had been such a scrappy, low-budget studio, had a turnaround in the mid-30s, almost entirely due to Frank Capra. When Capra's It Happened One Night swept the Oscars in 1934, that meant everything to Columbia Pictures. But that same year, they got an Oscar nomination for a Three Stooges short, Men in Black, the title of which was a parody of a very popular film with Clark Gable called Men in White, about doctors and hospitals.
Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard.
Get up, Junior. Get up, Junior. Get up, Junior.
What are you working here for?
For duty and humanity.
Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard.
It shouldn't come as a shock to anybody that Moe was the driving force of the act. He wasn't violent, he didn't poke anybody in the eyes in real life, but he oversaw everything, and he did a good job of it.
On your toes, men. Not my toes.
In later years, when people asked Moe what was the jumping off point for any of their shorts, he said, well, we would think, where would we be most out of place? And the answer was anywhere.
Permit me to transform you men into gentlemen.
At a society dinner party.
Shall we dance? Why, certainly.
At a school graduation.
You'll just love it. Mildew has a lovely student body.
Yours wouldn't be so bad either if you took off about 20 pounds. Come on.
Taking census.
We just got a job. We're working for the census.
You mean Will Hayes?
In jail.
Well, I'll be hanged.
You will.
At a workplace. At almost any workplace. Before his brother, Mo, called on him, Jerry Howard had a full head of hair and virtually no show business experience. But he was a natural. I mean, he's one of the great screen comedians of all time. He has a childlike way about him and an innocence. He's actually a surreal character.
If we only had a saw.
Hey, what about these?
Well,
Where'd you get these? I say bottle tops.
You can run a saw over his head, and it will bend the teeth of the saw.
how much is 4 cents times 100,000?
He can become an adding machine.
$1.50.
Very skilled with pantomime. What they stepped into at Columbia under Jules White was a world of comedy that had begun with Mack Sennett in the teens, and people like Bud Jameson and Vernon Dent became part of their stock company, usually playing adversaries.
Help!
They were veterans. They'd been working since 1914, 1915. So for them, this was just a continuation that lasted into the 50s. Just amazing.
How old are you?
What address is this? 102.
You don't look a day over 80.
Simona Boniface turns up in some Charlie Chase shorts in the mid-20s, playing a grande dame, even when she was young.
Powdered sugar. Cheerio.
You say the most amusing thing.
Can't know. Everybody's looking.
She became an all-purpose punching bag for the Stooges.
He did it.
Thank you.
But you started it.
Christine McIntyre came to Hollywood with aspirations of utilizing her trained singing voice.
Hey, boys, I must be dead. I hear an angel singing.
She became the Stooges' all-purpose leading lady and worked with them quite harmoniously.
Senorita, you are marvelous. I enjoyed your singing so much. I'm Mrs. Bixby.
Microphone is one of my all-time favorite Stooge shorts.
Mr. Allen told me he had a wonderful new personality for my crispy, crunchy program. He was so right. It's agreed then. You'll work for me. I have the contracts right here.
And it showcases Christine McIntyre and her lovely voice.
Oh, my dear, you are wonderful. You'll sing for us now, won't you?
And it showcases Curly and his gift for pantomime. It's not coincidental that that short was written and directed by Edward Burns, who had become their primary director for a number of years. But he'd worked with them before. He was Columbia's top sound recordist. He had the headphones on when Frank Capra called action. He would also pay attention to what was filming on the lot, and sometimes they built elaborate sets, and he would take advantage of that and write a short around the set.
Basket.
Jules White liked action.
Please.
He liked knockabout comedy. His shorts tended to be more violent.
Shake.
Del Lord is one of my heroes. He was a Mack Sennett veteran who apparently drove the Keystone Cops police wagon in the silent era. And he transitioned to become a director.
I shall fire the magic gun. And what have we in here? The little lady.
And one of the best comedy directors who ever lived. He was a master at staging stunts, gags. He'd done it all.
Opening the door, what have we here? The little...
I wish there were a paper trail to explain how the Stooges got around to parodying Hitler and Mussolini before Charlie Chaplin did.
We must throw off the yoke of monarchy and make our country safe for hypocrisy.
They may have heard that Chaplin was working on The Great Dictator and figured they would scoop Charlie Chaplin, and they did.
You, I shall give Mickey Finland.
If I take Mickey Finland, I better be Russian. Then quit Stalin.
Their first short, You Nasty Spy, was so well received they made another one called I'll Never Heil Again. And of course the fact that they were Jewish, which Chaplin was not,
Shalom Aleichem.
gave an added irony to the parody. Curly had a stroke. These days they might call it a series of mini strokes. His movements were affected, his speech was affected, but he could still function to some degree.
Give me that pie. I'll get over there and sit down before I crown you. Go on.
But then he had a major stroke that put him out of commission. And all of a sudden, the Stooges needed to replace him. And the obvious choice was his brother, Sam, known as Shemp.
You gotta get out of this.
All right.
There isn't much time left. You know that, don't you?
Shemp had built a reputation of his own, with good parts in Abbott and Costello films, W.C. Fields' The Bank Dick, but he was willing to rejoin the act. I don't know who would say no to Mo, but he said yes.
I oughta. You oughta what? I oughta be a little more careful.
The problem was, following Curly was a tough act. Shemp, expert comedian though he was no Curly.
How many feet you got?
2.
You skillet head. Give me that tape.
In the years that have passed since my childhood discovery of the Stooges, I've come to like Shemp.
I'm the evil spirit that guards the rootin' tootin' diamond.
And appreciate Shemp. And Shemp has a following of his own.
I would leave it on. People don't know if you're coming or going with this on.
The sound effects made their slapstick action play.
Mo, I'm blind.
If you poked Shemp in the stomach, you heard the sound of a timpani drum.
What does your watch say?
Tick, 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 tick.
Quiet. I was a little too quick for you, wasn't I? Yeah.
The sound department really enjoyed working on these shorts. They could feel free to use any exaggerated sound they could concoct.
Give him this, and that, and this, and this, and this, and this. There.
Oh, thanks. You're certainly a pal.
It's all right.
Come right in, folks.
Say, here's the license. My pal wants to get married in a rush.
Oh, splendid.
Emil Sitka was a journeyman actor who got cast in a Stooges film of the late 40s.
Your drink, madam. Pardon me, madam.
And filled it so well, they kept hiring him.
Oh, come in, Dr. Gesundheit.
Emil Sitka tended to play eccentric characters.
Uh-huh, very interesting.
Mad scientists, inventors, but he could also play justices of the peace, as he did memorably.
Hold hands, you lovebirds.
He wound up appearing in so many of the Stooge films, even into the 60s, when they made their feature films, that some people called him the fourth Stooge. When Shemp passed away in 1955, Moe and Larry were stuck again for a partner. At first, they got away with using footage of just the two of them with a stand-in for Shemp.
Boys, we gotta be careful to make sure nobody followed us.
Right.
Which must have been very, very odd, not to mention emotional. And then they turned to Joe Besser.
Hello. 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 Hello.
who had already made solo shorts for Columbia, for Jules White.
I can't. Joe, what's the matter? Nothing. Nice piece of acting, though, isn't it?
He was a wonderfully funny comedian, but he didn't really fill that third stooge role ideally because he was the solo comic.
Pinch me, see if I'm dreaming. Ow, not so hard. Ow, not so hard.
Oh, copy.
And there were some where they tried to use stock footage from an earlier short with Curly and just substitute the footage of close-ups with him. And they kind of pulled it off. At the end of that contract, though, and the end of the release schedule in 1959, it was over. The short subject department at Columbia was over. Jules White's contract was over. It's not coincidental that Harry Cohn had just died in early 1958. Harry Cohn did have a sentimental streak of some sort, as well as a good business sense. In any case, the Stooges went into limbo, not so much retirement as limbo. Until Screen Gems, their television division, started releasing their shorts to television.
Just a little surprise, dear. I hope you like it.
At first, they released 78 of the Curly shorts, and they were a sensation. I was alive then. I was 7 years old, and I'll never forget seeing them for the first time and falling in love with them. Suddenly, there was demand again for the Three Stooges. Screen Gems then released all 190 to television, and they've never gone away. Knockabout comedy and slapstick comedy still plays to an audience. And it plays especially to an audience of kids because it's grown-ups acting like children. But they present a united front. They are all for one and one for all, for duty and humanity.
Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. Oh, they got me.
For duty and humanity.